Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Season 5, Episode 42 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210 and tell them CDP, aka Chris Palme, sent you there as well. Guys, right now it's truck month at Barry Cullen Chevrolet. If you guys are into pickup trucks, the 2023 Silverado pickup truck 1500, you can now get it for 3.49% financing up to 72 months. And anyone that's a Costco member that does purchase a GM vehicle at Barry Cullen Chevrolet can receive up to $750 bonus card on select trucks as well. So again, thank you to Barry Cullen Chevrolet for sponsoring Live with CDP Sports Talk. And again, Live with CDP Sports Talk is on weeknights at 8 o'clock on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Metro Atlanta as well, guys. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again to Live with CDP. And I'm looking forward to my guest today. Her name is Sarah Said. She is a host, on-air host, associate producer with Homestead Media Sports, and she covers the Canadian Football League and the National Football League. So I look forward to having Sarah on my show for the first time. And we're not that far away from CFL training camp as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. Honestly, I'm so excited for the season. I can't wait.
Absolutely. I love the NFL, love the CFL, college football, but now I'm ready for the CFL to start. And I want to say, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on my 262nd episode today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I hope the opening was okay for you.
Of course, perfect.
Okay. When did you guys change over to Homestead Media Sports?
Yeah, so originally the company that I work for was called The Parlay. I believe that they are still under Parlay Media Group in terms of the company title. But basically, we focused way more on the betting side of things when we first started off, and now we expanded and we're doing fun podcasts, social media clips, more just commentary, entertainment, analysis, those kinds of things. So we thought, parlay is a sports betting word term. So maybe changing that would help us a little bit. So that's kind of where it's at. But it's the same company, essentially, same people, same great hosts.
How long have you been with the company for now?
So it's almost been, I think it's a year this month, I think.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And overall, how's it been? Is it a good experience?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I think it's such a great opportunity. It's something that I'm super blessed to be a part of. I made incredible friends with the hosts that I'm with. So like it's all young people, a lot of women, which is rare in the sports media industry to have mainly women around you. And they everybody that I've worked with have taught me so much throughout my time there. And we love to be creative. We love to, try new things. And because of that, I think it's perfect for me because I cover the CFL, which is, there's not that much coverage of the CFL in Toronto. And so the fact that I can do it, first of all, for my full-time job, but then also be able to be creative with it is incredible.
And and you're right about women in sports. It has changed a lot. And I've had guests on recently, Christine Lisi with ESPN Radio for 20 years. She was one of the pioneers, and Amy Lawrence. And it's just great to see women getting more involved in sports and especially the broadcasting side of the business.
For sure. I think women have always had an interest in sports. I think it's great to have women to represent on camera, or whether they're writing articles or interviewing people on podcasts or anything like that, because it not only encourages other women to do the same, but it also women can connect with other women in terms of fans as well on a deeper, different level than men. So it's kind of cool. But regardless, like anybody in the space who wants to succeed, whether you're a guy or girl, I think it's cool to have passionate people around.
And Sarah, I've only known you maybe just under a year now, but I can tell how passionate you are about your work. And the one thing about doing this podcast show, I've met so many people in the industry, young or old, and it's just been a great experience so far.
Yeah, no, it was so good to meet you. I appreciate you saying that. I definitely feel passionate about the CFL, and I love, like I said, I love meeting people, having people around that are also as passionate. That's what makes the job fun, right?
Yes, and the Toronto Argonauts have been great with me. I've been a fan of the team since 1979 when I was 7 years old. Grew up with my late father, and I have a connection with the team, and they've been really great, especially Chris Bilinovich and Mike Hogan and stuff like that. Sean Bowen, and just really enjoy last season, and I'm looking forward. Maybe less than 68 days to the home opener against the Cats on June 18th.
Yep, I am so excited. I know it's just speeding by. I feel like for me, once May hits is basically when the CFL season starts because you've got the CFL draft like right there at the beginning, I think May 2nd, and then obviously training camp a few weeks later. So for me, it's like April's the last month of just chilling, so to speak, even though there's still some news going around and stuff like that, still preparing for the season, but it's so soon. So I'm very excited for the Argos this season. It's going to be great.
Now, are you following the USFL, the XFL as well?
Not too much, to be honest. I'd like to possibly next season get more into it, but I see snippets here and there.
Yeah, to be honest, for me, I've always grown up with college football, the NFL, CFL. Even back in the '80s, I never got into the original USFL. So maybe one day I'll look at a game or whatever. But my first love is obviously the CFL and then the NFL.
Yep, nothing like Canadian football.
Okay, so we'll get into some questions, Sarah. As you know, I'm based out of Guelph. Can you just tell my audience just a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Sarah. In terms of career, I guess, I started off working in fashion journalism. So I went to, now it's called TMU, downtown Toronto, for fashion communications. I worked in the fashion industry, so fashion magazines, as well as on set for commercials and just for magazines as well. So I loved fashion, I loved art, and that's kind of what brought me there. And I also love storytelling. And I ended up traveling for about 8 months and came back. And then I realized throughout that time that I really like the storytelling aspect, you know, over like the fashion part as well. So I wanted to tell other stories, deeper stories. I wanted to work in news, but because of my degree, it was hard to find a job in that way. But I ended up getting a job for a veterinary magazine. So I worked as an editor in a veterinary magazine for a while, which is so different to what I studied, but it's journalism at the end of the day, right? I was writing articles and interviewing people, and it was really helpful to teach me how to almost like how to write serious news, so to speak, quote unquote. And so then, but then I decided, okay, broadcast is the way to go, and I wanted to go back to school. And then it took a while for me to go back to school because COVID kind of slowed that process down. But then finally, I went to Seneca College. Best experience of my life. I will always shout out Seneca. Great teachers, great classes. I made great friends. I learned a lot. Great studio, and I was at the York University campus, the Seneca at York campus, and so yeah. And then from there, I wanted to do news. I wanted to do documentaries, but throughout that experience, it's so funny. I ended up finding an interest in sports, specifically the CFL, and just kind of fell in love with it. And I knew I was going to do the CFL from then on. And people would ask me like, why? Because again, in Toronto, the CFL, the Argos are not talked about as much as other leagues, obviously, and other teams. So people would be kind of confused about that. But I'm so happy it's the best decision that I made because at the end of the day, yeah, I feel like it's just the perfect fit for me. So that's me.
I was gonna say I'm old enough. I remember when the CFL used to be right behind the Maple Leafs in Toronto. It used to be the Leafs number one, and then the Argonauts, and then I think when the Blue Jays started getting good in the early '80s, that's when it started affecting the Argos, because the Argos for many years were like the number one sport in Toronto in the summertime, and now you got so many professional sports leagues there in Toronto. But I'm really hoping this year the attendance at BMO Field can get to what it was for the East Final against Montreal. I think they had what 22,000 fans for that game.
Yeah, I'm hoping that too. I mean, I always tell people, right? Like, it's obviously summertime during the CFL season. It's just like it is for Blue Jays games, right? You spend a lot of people go to Blue Jays games, they spend $15, $20 on a ticket. They don't really watch the game a lot of times. They just go to hang out with friends and have some drinks and enjoy the weather. So it's the same thing. I always tell people that just do the same, but get an Argos ticket instead. And it's a beautiful stadium. There's a great view. It's obviously the station is right there, exhibition station, so you can just head right downtown if you want to afterwards. So I am hoping that attendance grows. Obviously, that's what we all hope for the CFL. But what's cool is that a lot of other teams are taking extra initiatives, I guess you could say, to make their games like a whole experience, a big event. You see that in BC too, right? Where Amar Doman is kind of bringing in concert guests, to do some concerts and things. Then you got like $5 drinks and food, things like that. I think is what these big cities need to be doing more and more of, because in Toronto, like I'm sure there's so many events all the time, like festivals and things like that. So having that type of experience around the game, I think, would hopefully get us to that Eastern final type of numbers.
Yeah, and I took my nephew, who's 25. He's an NFL fan, to his first CFL game last year, and he enjoyed it. He didn't mind taking the GO train in from Burlington, and then he liked the beer selection, obviously, and then he really liked the stadium, and he had a good time. And I'm hoping he'll come back to a game again this year.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's getting a friend or family member over to the game is kind of that first thing you have to cross. And then once they go, they're like, "Oh, you know what? This was really fun. This was great. I would do this again. No worries, no problem." So that's the only thing. I think the stigma, and I hate that I'm even saying that, but I think with young people that are into the NFL as in Toronto, there's like a weird stigma is the only word I can think of right now surrounding the CFL. They're like, "Oh, that's not cool," for whatever reason. But when they watch it on TV or in person, they realize it's football like anything else, and it's a good time. So that's the hope, that we can get people in first.
Yeah, and when I was growing up in the '70s, a lot of the Argo games were blacked out. Same with Hamilton. I had to listen to a lot of the games on the radio and stuff. But back then, I was like, I still love the CFL, and you can like every league. There's no rule saying it has to be NFL this and that's it. You can. It's a great product, and younger generation should have a choice. You can like both leagues, and
Yeah,
and the games are great, and the athletes are amazing.
100%. And I'm hoping that, now with social media and just the way that um, sports is being marketed online in a bunch of different leagues, even you see it with USFL and XFL, hopefully that those players' personalities can shine, that they get highlighted more, that there's more fun content that kind of leads people in, right? So yeah, I think it's a great product for sure too.
Okay, I'm just going to get back to some more questions, Sarah. You've already answered the schooling part of it. Did you have a mentor or mentors when you were first starting out in the industry?
Um, I think I've had a few, which is great. I've been very blessed. Definitely in school, just honestly, the profs were amazing. The other students even were amazing, and same with homestand. There's a people who work there with me. So there's James Sharman, who's great. Um, who covers soccer. He's great. He helps a lot. But I would say, like, in terms of like mentor, most likely most would be Kayla Gray. So she's the Raptors reporter, and I kind of worked with her a little bit on some projects and some things, and I was able to learn a lot. So she's awesome.
Because I always like to ask my guests that, because I just like hearing how mentoring can get you into a new career, and it helps when you're starting out a new career. And sometimes it takes time and it takes a little bit of help from people as well.
Oh, for sure. You can't My belief is we're, as human beings, you're meant to connect with others. It's just part of who we are, right? We're not meant to do things alone. We could do things alone. We can, you know, it's a lot of times doing those certain things alone is empowering, but for the most part, it's okay to lean on others for help. It's a good thing. You learn a lot. They give you perspective, and that's how you grow, right? It's through those connections and through that experience.
And I'm kind of doing this the old school, unconventional way of self teaching myself. But one thing is just as important as talking is listening skills. Not just listening to my guests, but when I'm covering the articles or doing my other assignments, and there's people that have been in the industry a long time, I like to listen to their stories and their insights as well, and pick their brains.
Oh, for sure, right? That's the best way to go about it. Sometimes you have a conversation with somebody that, you know, you just ask them a few simple questions and then you end up learning so much, right? Or they end up giving you an idea, hey, like you should try this, and then you try it after and you love it. So you never know where conversations are going to lead. You never know what's going to inspire you. And so keeping that open mind is like very key in this space for sure.
And I'm trying to be a jack of all trades as well, Sarah, because I like to do digital writing, but I also do camera work for the university here and for Rogers TV. So I'm learning the TV and the radio side, and I'm trying to get better at digital writing. Do you have any advice for someone like me? I've only been doing it for a year now, but for somebody that's you've been doing it a little bit longer than me?
Yeah, sure. I mean, um writing is tricky because so you want to be creative, but you also want to get straight to the point and to the facts, right? Because especially in this day and age when people get bored easily when they read things or watch things. So, obviously always starting with the critical information at the top of your article, that's, going to be your lead. You're going to say, hey, the Argos beat the, I don't even know, Bombers at 34 to, I think it was 33. I can't remember right now, but, you know, something like that right off the bat, putting the important names in the very top. That kind of key information is what's going to draw the person in and keep them reading. And also just, being yourself. Like, I think if you're obviously depends what you're talking about, but if you're talking about sports, which for the most part is fun and entertaining, you can totally be yourself. Maybe play on words or add in a little joke here and there that show off your personality as well, because that's what people love to read, right? They want to connect not just with the article itself, but they want to connect with the person behind it too.
Just like doing a podcast show, I try to be myself, not somebody that I'm not. Just always be
Exactly.
yourself. So,
That's a
okay,
that's a good way of going about it.
definitely. Um, this one I wanted to ask you about, Sarah. What was your first role or job in media, and how important was it in terms of your career so far?
Yeah, so in sports media, this is my first job in sports media, but in terms of media in general. So I worked, I guess I can give you the veterinary job as the example because I was an editor there. And it really helped me a lot because like I said, I wrote before that, I was writing stuff for more for like fashion magazines, fashion publications, things like that. And it was great, but it was very, there wasn't the story was basically what you make of it, meaning that like if let's say there was a trend happening, like bomber jackets are trending, which is a type of jacket, you would have to make, a visually appealing and well written article about bomber jackets, which could be a lot of fun, but there's not much substance necessarily within that story. Whereas like when I was writing articles for the veterinary magazine, there was heavier topics, right? You're talking about animal health. You're talking about, pet owners and how their animal health can affect them. You're talking about compassion fatigue for veterinarians. It's a very difficult job. People don't know that, but veterinarians have uh, struggle a lot, especially vet students with mental health. So those things you have to be more careful. You have to, do more research or just make sure that you're conveying the information correctly. So I think learning those skills of figuring out what is that key information that needs to be shared, and but also and making sure it's accurate and making sure you're being responsible as a journalist or an editor. But in addition to that, you're also giving people things that they want to read about, and again, it's and not entertaining in that sense, but informative in a way that people want to keep reading. So yeah, you learn from experience a lot. It's trial and error a lot. So I think for me, that was a big lesson for me. And now it helps me because I love to do the fun stuff. And I'm so lucky that I get to have fun and be silly and stupid in all of my content. But at the same time, I know that when there is something more serious that I know how to navigate that as well.
And I was going to say, I can tell how outgoing person you are, and in this industry, you have to have good people skills as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I'm very extroverted. When I was growing up in school, my teachers, like my report cards, I did well in school just for the most part. But the one thing that my report card would always have at the bottom from one of my teachers was, Sarah's a good student, but she just talks too much. Because I always wanted to, like, share stories with my friends, ask them questions. I was always just a chatterbox. And I think that that's just always my personality. I like to be extroverted. And I think I found the perfect industry for that because my job is pretty much to talk to people. So I'm lucky.
And for me, my first 4 years of my life, I didn't talk much at all. And when I was in school, I hated public speaking. And now, go figure, being 50 years old, I love doing public speaking and I love putting myself out there. And it's just, I guess for me, it took a little longer to open up than other people.
Yeah. I have a similar story to that, Chris. When I was in grade 12, we had to write for English class in high school. I had to write like a poem and then present it in front of your class. And my class was quite small. It was like 20 people max. And I knew all the people from, growing up, I knew them quite well. So they weren't strangers by any means. So I had to go up, I presented my poem. And I guess I got so nervous. I started shaking. I started just, you get like stage fright. I started like kind of tearing up and I didn't expect that. It just kind of happened. My teacher was really kind. She said, it's okay, Sarah, like don't worry about it. You're like, she gave me a good grade. It was fine. But I remember after that happening, I told myself, okay, now Sarah, like talking to myself, that you can't do this. Like this is not something you're good at. You're not a public speaker. You're not gonna, just stay away from those situations. And it was fine. I was like, okay, cool. Now I know that. But then it's so interesting because similar to you, that's my job now. And I hosted a Super Bowl party, watch party this past a few months ago. Yeah, in February. And there was like I think there's like 200 people there. And I
Wow.
hosted it. And I was like thinking to myself after, oh my goodness, if grade 12 Sarah could see this, right? Because sometimes you tell yourself something, you put yourself in a box, and and it's not true, even just because you have one incident that you crumble or feel sad about or struggle with, it doesn't define you whatsoever, right? So it's good to kind of keep pushing if that's something you're passionate about for real.
I think my former profession that I did for 24 years, I had to deal with a lot of people. Um, and I think that has helped me because when I was in school, I was always avoiding doing public speaking and trying to avoid having the spotlight on me. And I wish you're right. I wish those teachers could see what I'm doing now because I've completely become more open than I was back when I was in my teens or 20s or 30s.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. Good for you, Chris. I'm proud.
Well, thank you, Sarah, and that's what I love about this podcast show is hearing my guest stories and being able to share some of my stories as well. Now, congratulations on almost a year now with Homestead Media Sports. Do you remember your first day on the job, and were you a little bit nervous?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Let me think back at that first day. I definitely was nervous. I definitely was. Just because the only stuff that I had done on camera also was in school. I was comfortable on camera, but I was still new, So you have to put yourself like when you're in front of new people too who are recording you and stuff, you start to overthink a little bit. But no, I mean, I don't remember the first day exactly, but it was definitely positive experience. Everybody again is so nice and chill. And I feel like looking back though now at the stuff even that I did last summer, like videos. Sometimes I cringe because you grow and you change, and now I'm so much more comfortable. So yeah, it was a good experience for sure.
Awesome. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you, I guess your main role with them is covering the CFL, obviously the Argonauts, and some NFL. But do you cover any other sports besides that?
Not at the moment. I do
Oh,
help out sometimes. So if there's like an event, like last week I went to Ottawa to speak to fans at the Ottawa Senators game. There was the Leafs were at in Ottawa, and so I got to speak to fans and go see that game. Sometimes those things will come up, but for the most part, I am a CFL girl.
nothing wrong with that. Yeah, like I said, I've been a Argos fan since '79, and my favorite Argo all-time player is Terry Greer. Everyone thinks it's Mike Pimbo Clements, but Terry Greer to me is my all-time favorite Argonaut. And I would like to, I'm going to bring this up to Mike Hogan next week. I would like to see a little more history of the team around the field, maybe even some statues and stuff like that in the future to recognize some of the great players on this team. I know they have the banners on the field, but I just I go to NFL stadiums and you see statues and the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame. And
Sorry, I think you cut off right at the end there.
oh, I was gonna say sorry about that. Wi-Fi, I guess, sometimes happens. I just like to see the Argonauts one day have a Argonaut Hall of Fame and have a statue of like Pinball Clements, Terry Greer, and maybe Joe Theismann, who played for the Argos in the early '70s.
Yeah.
It just to honor the history of the team, and it's the Argonauts' 150th year this year.
Oh, for sure. I think something like that would be amazing. I also think that it would help kind of solidify the um, the importance of the CFL, I think in Toronto, if you're getting fans even walking by, right, during the CNE, if they're going to the CNE and they're walking by BMO Field and they see these statues with like a plaque or something, they'll be like, wow, I didn't realize it was that old. The league was that old, right? I didn't realize that, these incredible players, were in the Argos during this time period. So I think that that could definitely help even just bring attention to the team.
Because I know where the Blue Jays used to play. They have the bases for the old stadium there. I would be nice to see them do the goalpost markers for where the Argos were because I grew up at Exhibition Stadium back in the '70s and '80s watching the Jays and the Argos there, and it's just so much history for that franchise in that area. And I was so glad when they moved back to BMO Field in 2016 from the Rogers Center. I never was a fan of the Rogers Center for the CFL.
Yeah. No, it's cool that you got to experience that for sure. I've only seen BMO Field, so I like BMO Field as well.
It's yeah, it's a great location, and I like the fact the GO train is right there, like 1 minute from the stadium, and it's just so easy to get to and get out of.
Yeah, great view as well. I feel like when you're in the stands there, you can kind of see a little bit of Toronto, which is nice.
Okay, speaking of the Argonauts, quick thoughts on the 2022 Canadian Football League season, and you were at the Grey Cup game last year in Regina, right? Correct?
I actually wasn't. I know, I
Oh,
know. I should have been there. I'm kind of sad that I didn't go because obviously the Argos won. I did end up I stayed in Toronto and we did a watch party here. But I mean, that was a great game for sure. 2022 CFL season was awesome too. I think when I think of that season, I think of Nathan Rourke, first of all. What he did just on the field was amazing during that time period that he was, before he was injured. What he did for Canadian quarterbacks, it's first of all, it's so good to have a big star like that kind of emerge, but then for him to also be Canadian is really, really cool. He broke records for Canadian quarterbacks, like league records, which is incredible during just that short time period. I think he had like you the most passing yards Canadian from a Canadian quarterback, like from until like I think it was the 1981, I think. So it means a lot for Canadian quarterbacks, for sure. And then you saw also the Trey Ford come on. You saw like it's really cool to see that. Then in terms of the game itself, um, I think that it was such a crazy ride. I obviously, like I said, I was doing a watch party, so I didn't see it live. And it was one of those things where like I was half working, half watching the game. So, but every time I would turn my head to the screen or try to, fully lock myself into the game, something would change. Something was different, and it was so incredible to watch that. Especially the last quarter, which was nuts. Janarian Grant had that really had like a 102-yard punt return, and he scored a touchdown. Which for me at that time, you're looking at that, you're like, okay, the Bombers probably have it. They had like almost a 10-point lead at that point, and then obviously that wasn't the case, right? Obviously, too, McLeod Bethel Thompson's injury was just unexpected. I think Dinwiddie was saying that they were trying to get him back in, like they were trying to, help him, his hand, I think it was his thumb, but ultimately, like they had to throw obviously Chad Kelly in, which is like an unusual situation or a stressful situation to put a backup quarterback in. Of course, it's the Grey Cup, but he pulled through, and at the end of the day, like they made it through. So I'm really that was, it was kind of the perfect ending to that season for me. Not only because the Argos won, but just because it was such a fun game at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And the Argos now have won 7 Grey Cups in the last 39 years after going 31 years without winning one. And the Argonauts haven't lost the Grey Cup since 97 against Damon Allen and the then Edmonton Eskimos at BC Place 38-36. If you've never seen that game on YouTube, it's one of the greatest Grey Cups back from 1987.
I will go watch that. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, and Damon Allen was the backup to Matt Dunnigan, and obviously Damon made up for it because he got us a Grey Cup in 2004. But that Grey Cup, it came down to the last second at BC Place, and yeah, Argonaut fans should be spoiled with all the Grey Cups this franchise has won. The only concern is the last couple times they've won the Grey Cup, they've kind of had down your Clements in the offseason so far, has done a good job trying to keep the majority of this core together to see if they can take another run this year. What's your thoughts, Sarah?
Oh, I really like what they've been doing this offseason. I think, like you said, it's keeping those key guys that are we're such a big part of the team last year. Some of them veterans, some of them younger guys. And at the end of the day, it's you're never gonna get the same exact team again, but to do they did what they could do to kind of make that happen as best as they could. And you can't, and recreating, like I said, recreating chemistry is hard. You can't, right? It's something that's just intangible. And so the fact that they kind of can maintain those guys and bring in other new guys that are really strong, I think it's gonna be great. Like I think they did the best job. I think Pinball was even saying too, like that was his main goal, was to keep those guys. I also think it's a momentum thing, right? If you just won and you're able to kind of keep that momentum high, why not, right? The only big question obviously is Chad Kelly, because MBT, he did incredible last year. That's my opinion. Obviously, a lot of people don't agree with that, but I think he did good for, and they ultimately went to the cup, right? So to have a new guy come in is going to be the biggest question mark.
And that leads to my question here is, what are your overall thoughts on Chad Kelly taking over the starting quarterback? And again, thoughts on McLeod Bethel Thompson with his time with the Argonauts. I know last year, the first time media person, he was really good with me. He answered my questions, and you could tell that he was a leader, and he didn't want to make any excuses when he did talk to the media, and his leadership skills.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with you. I first time I met him actually was the first time that I met you, Chris. We were in the Guelph like media room or whatever. I'm sure
Yes.
you were there. I don't know if you remember this, but I didn't ask any questions because I was just kind of absorbing everything, right? It was my first time, so I was absorbing information. And then he kind of like noticed that I didn't ask anything, and he looked at me and he's like, "What about you? Like, are you going to ask me something?" And in the moment, I just didn't expect it. So I just said, I don't know why I said this, but I was put on the spot. But I was like, "Oh, are you going to win the Grey Cup this year?" And then he laughed and he was like, "Yep, that's the plan." And it's so funny because, he stuck to that plan and it worked and he was right. So, I think he doesn't often get enough credit for his time, like in general, the years, but like last year, particularly last season, after Rourke was injured, he became the first in passing yards. Like, and I think, and he ultimately, like I said, brought his team to the cup. Definitely a leader. His personality, he's a really funny guy, really positive guy, but also really works hard. You can see it all the time. Anytime you speak to him, he's like locked in, right? And in terms of, and he was obviously Chad Kelly, like, was able to witness that. Chad Kelly was there, during that winning season. Obviously, he helped at the end of in the Grey Cup at the end there, but for the most part, Chad Kelly was basically being mentored, so to speak, right, by McLeod Bethel Thompson. So in terms of Chad Kelly and what he could do for the team, like, to me, I think that he sort of represents to me, he represents potential at this time, right? We can't really we can try to guess, we can try to analyze, but the truth is it's going to be a new era, and he has the potential, sorry, to surprise us all. Whether that's, doing incredible, or maybe there's some challenges that come up as well. I think it's always going to be a challenge, right, when you're the most inexperienced starting quarterback in the league. You're coming into a team that had just won the Grey Cup and who had a veteran, and all of the quarterbacks in the East right now are veterans. So you know they have that experience specifically with the CFL, so that Chad doesn't have. And also, yeah, like, I think that those aspects are going to be kind of a question marks until we see it actually happen in front of us. But I think, like I said, I think that there's potential. That's the biggest word. He knows a lot. He knows the guys already. He definitely also does work hard. And I think that he also is very motivated. Like, I'm sure you've heard that he is hoping to go back to the NFL. That is a goal for him down the line. So maybe that could just push him and motivate him further to obviously give his all regardless. I mean, you'd hope he'd do that regardless, but there are these extra motivations as well. So I think it'll be interesting. He has a big personality. I think the personality aspect is kind of good for the CFL because we don't get that often. And I think, like, every league has, whether it's NBA or NHL, there's always going to be guys like that. And they're entertaining and they bring light to the league. And he's, obviously has that connection with his uncle, who, Jim Kelly, who's obviously a legend. So these things all they can do, no matter how the Argos perform, which I hope they perform really well. But no matter how the Argos perform, it'll only give more attention to the game, to the league, which I think ultimately is positive. And I want to have faith in it. So I'm going to say that I'm excited about this season with Chad Kelly.
With McLeod, I know I was some of his harshest critics sometime, but he proved me and a lot of people wrong. In a way, I can kind of relate to him because I'm trying to get into a career later in life and trying to beat the underdogs and stuff like that. As for Chad Kelly, he's always had the talent in college football and the NFL. My concern as an Argo fan and a CFL fan is his attitude and his leadership, because being a quarterback in the CFL, NFL, it's not just based on talent. It's based on your leadership and your attitude and your work ethic. And Chad Kelly is now going to have a bullseye on his back this year, being the starting quarterback for a Grey Cup champion. Just thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, right? Leadership is very important, work ethic, all of these things. I think that ultimately, I think just knowing the team, that I think that they will kind of have that, they will stick together. I think they're going to be strong together. I think that he will be able to foster those bonds with the guys. I think it's more just the pressure, in my opinion, right? There's a lot of pressure that everybody's going to be, like you said, looking at him. And, like, again, there's the East is such a unique. I mean, the whole league this year is going to be very interesting to see how things play out, even in the West. But specifically, the East to me is quite unique this year because, obviously you got Bo Levi Mitchell coming into the Ticats. You've got Cody Fajardo with the Owls, and then you have Jeremiah Masoli, who was injured. So, hoping that he can actually play as well. So, like, in my opinion, when you think of it, they're all kind of new, even though Jeremiah Masoli is not really new, but he hasn't played like that for a while. So it's going to be like, it can really go in different directions. And I think that, yes, Chad Kelly will be able to be a leader with those guys. But I think in terms of pressure and within the East as well is going to be the hardest part for him. It's mental pressure, emotional pressure, pressure from the media, pressure to win, like, just piling on to him. So can he handle it? That's a good question. I think gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah, because I know there was something that he so if he can win back-to-back Grey Cups, he'll be back in the NFL. And my concern as a teammate is let's just focus on this year, focus on one game at a time and not look ahead. Obviously, that's his goal, but I don't know. To me, as a quarterback, I would kind of keep that to myself and just worry about training camp. And because in football, it's a long season. Nothing is guaranteed in football, especially with injuries and stuff you don't see.
Oh, for sure, 100%. I think like I said, like in a lot of different leagues, you'll see personalities, um, that are very out there, I guess you could say, or very confident. I kinda like it, because even though I know I agree with you in the sense of like, I know he wants to go to the NFL, but, as a CFL quarterback, we'd love for the quarterback to be invested in that, team. But a lot of these guys wanna go to the NFL or have hopes to return. So for me, I get that, and you know what? He's being honest, that's cool. But yeah, I think the confidence aspect is we haven't seen anything yet, so part of me is like, you're confident. It's hard to fully accept the confidence when you haven't seen something as well, but at the same time, I love it. Like I said, I think all the guys in the league should have a crazy amount of confidence and think that they
Yeah.
and believe that they can achieve every single goal they have, even if it's in the NFL, because you want that energy and that effort being put into the game, right? That's only gonna make people more competitive. It's only gonna make, um, things more the game more interesting to watch, and again, it's entertainment, right? So I'm all in.
And to be fair too, and I gotta be fair with Chad too, is every quarterback's got a different personality. So I guess time will tell, and we'll see what happens. And I really do wish him well this year. It's going to be different being the starter this year than the backup, but we'll see what happens. Are you okay for two more quick questions?
Sure, no
Time
problem.
wise? Okay, this one I wanted to ask you, sir, because I know you were there about a month ago in Edmonton. But can you just tell my audience just a little bit about the CFL Combine that you recently covered for Homestead Media Sports?
Of course. So, yes, I did go to the combine in Edmonton. So this year was really interesting because it was, I guess, like a week long. And uh, yeah, it was at Commonwealth Fieldhouse slash stadium. So I guess the stadium is there. The field house is in the same building. Beautiful stadium. First of all, Commonwealth is like when I think of BMO Field is gorgeous to me, but Commonwealth is massive and it's just the colors and everything. Like it really felt cool to see that. My first time in the West. So I loved that part of it and experiencing getting to meet a lot of different people in the media as well as just like the players and stuff. I think it went amazing. I think the players, they're all what like Gen Z, so it's cool because what I do, like I was doing a lot of fun content. That's how I was covering it. I was doing reels and quick interviews, getting to know them, taking fun photos, um, and these guys are super open, right? They're super willing to speak with me, have fun, and again, like I said, because I think they're Gen Z as well, they kind of get that sense of humor. They're very social media savvy, and I think that that's really cool too. Because again, new generation of guys coming in to the league that are hopefully going to bring along new people, whether that's like new fans, whether that's some of their former teammates from the schools that they're from and that would support them, or other people that are just interested in what they do. So that was really interesting to see. One thing I will say, and they also performed quite well. There's a couple guys that really stood out to me as well. But one thing I will say though, and I know this is like a big topic, is the combine wasn't streamed anywhere, and I think that that is unfortunate because again, if you're going to be looking to get the new generation to watch, they want to see their friend, they want to see this guy that maybe they're like a fan of from their own university that is doing a great job on the field at school, and they want to see his journey. It's hard to it's just there's nothing to say really. It's hard to do that when you can't see it for yourself, like, on a stream and support in that way. So, that was a little bit disappointing, but it was an incredible experience for sure.
Hopefully, they look into doing it next year on their website. Look at the NFL; they make a big production out of it, and it's on TV and everything. So You're right. Hopefully they'll have it live streamed on their website next year. Quickly, since I got you on here before you wrap up, thoughts on Simon Fraser University ending their football program?
Yeah, I mean, it's just sad. I'm not. I wouldn't call myself an expert in that specific subject, but I just seeing how the players have even reacted to their football program being shut down was really unfortunate because these guys put their heart and souls into this program. That's a really old program, right? I believe it's quite um, has a history to it, and now suddenly these guys don't know where to go and don't know what to do. To me, that's the hardest part, and I think the worst thing when I look at that situation too is what does that say for football in Canada, for the young people, right? I mean, obviously we have other great programs and universities that do a great job, but it's when you see something like that happen, and it sounded like, again, I'm not an expert, but it sounded like it didn't have anything to do necessarily with money. It had to do with just, I don't know, they said something along the lines of like, I think it doesn't this program doesn't serve us anymore or something of that nature. Again, I'm definitely misquoting that, but you would hope that there would be somebody there to say, "Hey, wait, no, let's make this a priority." There's also some other things that, again, I'm looking on Twitter. That's how I'm kind of getting that information. And from what I'm seeing on Twitter is also that there might be other issues with the administration, the staff, the way they're handling things. They might be not being respectful to the players in a lot of ways. So there's a lot. It sounds like it's really complicated situation. But what breaks my heart the most for me is the young guys who all they want to do is play football, right? Now suddenly they're faced with this challenge. Where do they go? What do they do? And hopefully people can help them. That's my main concern.
And being with the University of Guelph, I filmed as a camera guy a lot of the Guelph Griffin games here last year. Adam Goss is the PA announcer here, or was for the Griffins, and it's really good football. It's competitive, and I think a lot of more fans should definitely come out to games because these are great athletes, and it's nice seeing Canadians play well at their own game here.
Yeah, no, 100%. I totally agree. I think that's where it starts, right? It's going to be starting young for the guys and for their fans, and the more that you can do to promote this Canadian talent, the more we're all going to succeed, right? Everyone in Canada ultimately, and in the media for us, it's great. Just for fans, it's great. It's there's a lot of opportunity, right? That comes with having and fostering support for these Canadian players.
Absolutely. Before I go, Sarah, do you got like 2 more minutes? One or
Yes,
two more minutes?
that's
Okay, no problem. I owe you. Thank you so much. When you're at the combine, quickly, when you talk to some of the teams, obviously they're looking for guys that are very talented. But was there any other qualities they were looking for in some of these guys at the combine? And just quick thoughts on the new ownership of the Montreal Alouettes.
Yeah. So in terms of the combine, I before the combine started, like in person, there was a media call, I guess you could say, for all of the teams, and they were basically highlighting what they were looking for. And a common thing that all of these teams are looking for, it sounds like, aside from their skills, the skills, parts, is pretty much just character, good character, right? Having somebody who they can rely on, somebody trustworthy, somebody who's a team player, those qualities that are really important, I think, just in any team sport. But I think specifically, in the CFL, they that's what they're kind of going for. So yeah, so that was one thing. In terms of the new ownership of the Montreal Alouettes, I mean, personally, I think overall it's quite positive. I mean, it's kind of exactly what people wanted, right? They wanted somebody who is from Quebec with a lot of money. I think he has like $2.6 billion, like Canadian dollars, which is nuts amount of money. And I know that he's been also wanting to bring an NHL team back into Quebec City. So his mind is kind of in that sports place already, so to speak. Obviously there's some people who find him controversial as well. He was in politics, I think, at some point. Which I'm not a politician. I'm not especially knowledgeable in Quebec in politics there, but for me personally, like my hope for the team with this new ownership is stability at the end of the day. I mean, they've been all over the place for a while. For them, it's been draining, and for the fans, it's been draining. And, for that, I just want them to achieve success and be stable. And I think to have support from someone who is very invested in the team, which he seems like he is, like Pierre seems like he is great. He hired a new president, CEO, and who says that he wants to basically focus on strengthening the relationship between the season ticket holders and the fans in Quebec, develop like this special customer experience, grow the presence of the team in the community, which I think is always key. I think every single team, I mean, I'm sure in the West they do this more often than here, but anytime you can get the team in the community is important. And like I said, like, you're seeing owners like Amar Doman, who's doing some great things for the BC Lions. Hopefully the Owls can go in a similar direction. And then they also have that partnership with Videotron, which is like owned by him. So, there's going to be that home opener against the Red Blacks, right? Where that Videotron is going to sponsor it, and they're going to do some halftime show. And that sounds really cool to me. Like, I don't know what that is. I don't know what they have planned, but why not, right? Why not get these sponsors? Why, if you can do it, why not have that money behind the team like that to create, again, that fan experience? So I think it's positive. I think that, everybody seems to be excited over there. So I again, it's one of those things where you just got to see what happens.
Yeah, because to me, the CFL is a stronger league when Montreal is doing well, and we need to keep the league at 9 teams. I'm going to have to bring you back on again in the future because I would like to have talked to you about the Halifax and what happened there as well. But I'm hoping one day the CFL will get that 10th team and have 5 on the East and 5 in the West.
No, awesome. Definitely would love to come back. Thank you.
Okay, I've kept you over 40 minutes, so thank you so much, Sarah. And just finally, last thing before we wrap it up is where can my audience follow you on social media, Sarah, and your website for Homestead Media Sports?
Yeah, of course. So if you want to follow Homestand Sports, you can go to, it's just at Homestand. So HOMESTAND. I believe that that's the Twitter account. Homestand Sports, at Homestand Sports is Instagram. If you want to follow me, it's just my full name, which is Sarah with an H and then Ann Said. So SARAHANNESAID. So yeah, follow me. We can talk about CFL.
And quickly before I let you go, are you guys covering the Blue Jays Tigers home opener tonight at the Rogers Center?
I am not doing it. I do believe that they might be doing some talking to fans and stuff. Homestand would probably be there, yeah, talking to fans, doing some streeters. So personally, I won't be, but I'm excited still for them.
Okay, well, Sarah, thank you so much for giving me some extra time today. I really appreciate it. Definitely open invite to come back on again. And hopefully we'll see you in Guelph in May for training camp for the Argonauts. And I'll definitely be at BMO Field this summer as well for the 2023 Argonaut season.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I will definitely see you soon.
Definitely. And give me about 20 minutes and I will send you the audio link to this show as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks, Sarah. Have a great afternoon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed season 5, episode 42 today with Sarah Said. She's an on-air host and associate producer with Homestead Sports Media, and she's a reporter, covers the CFL and a little bit about the NFL as well. Before we wrap this up, guys, I'm just going to show you a little quick video clip of Sarah from her YouTube channel. And yeah, it's Homestead Sports YouTube channel. Just announcing Andrew Harris re-signing for one more year with the Toronto Argonauts.
Andrew Harris will be back for a second season with the Toronto Argonauts, and it will be his last. Unlike some have speculated, the Canadian veteran running back will not be retiring post-championship. According to TSN's Farhan Lalji, Harris says that his latest one-year contract with the Double Blue will be his final and a final chance to win a 5th Grey Cup and a 4th straight. And even without the numbers and potential ring that he will surely rack up this upcoming season, what a resume he already has under his belt. Yes, in 2022, Harris was only able to play in 8 regular season games after suffering a torn pectoral muscle in Week 10, but he still showed out. The 35-year-old rushed for 490 yards on 100 114 carries, but was able to make a pretty miraculous return in the playoffs, scoring his first touchdown back from injury and the first touchdown for the Argos in the Eastern Final against the Montreal Alouettes. He also became the first Canadian to ever rush for over 10,000 career yards, and he ranks 4th on the CFL's all-time yards from scrimmage list. And the accomplishments he's accumulated over his more than a decade-long career are far too many to list off, so I'm just going to throw it over the screen here while I just sit. And although the end is near, that list is sure to grow as the Argos aim to recreate last season's success.
That clip was courtesy of That clip was courtesy of Homestand Sports Media as well. And again, thank you to Sarah Said for coming on live with CDP Sports Talk this afternoon. Guys, just to let you know, the next live with CDP Sports Talk brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet, Thursday, April 13th at 8 p.m. Eastern with my guest, Barbara Campos. She is a bilingual news reporter with extensive experience in the fast-paced media industry, and she's with CBS Austin and Telemundo Austin in Texas. So Barbara's going to come on and talk about her career in the media industry and working in the Austin, Texas area as well. So hopefully you guys can tune in to season 5, episode 43 this Thursday at 8 o'clock with Barbara Campos as well, guys. Before we go, guys, just some other news. The Toronto Blue Jays 47th home opener is tonight against my Detroit Tigers, and the Jays right now have a current record of 27-19 in their previous 46 home openers from Exhibition Stadium and the Rogers Center as well. Former Blue Jay and Baseball Hall of Famer and World Series champion with the Braves in 1995, Fred McGriff, will throw out the first pitch tonight at the newly renovated Rogers Center. The game will be on Sportsnet. I believe first pitch tonight is 7:07 as well, and it'll be interesting to see the new look Rogers Center. The first stage has been completed, and we'll see what happens. For the Detroit Tigers tonight, Matt Manning is pitching for the Tigers, who are 2-7, and they're going to have a long season. And Alex Manoah, the Blue Jays ace, will be starting tonight for the Jays, who are 6-4 after coming home from a long 10-game road trip. And the Blue Jays should have a good season at the Rogers Center, and the dimensions have been shortened and the fences have been changed there as well. So you're going to see more home runs, more triples, more doubles, more extra base hits, more speed in the Rogers Center this year, in my opinion, as well, guys. This will be the 6th time the Detroit Tigers have come to Toronto for the Blue Jays home opener. 1978, 2004, 2009, 2019, and 2023. So actually, this is the 5th time. The 5th time the Detroit Tigers have come to Toronto for the Blue Jays home opener. And speaking of home openers, the Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts home opener is 68 days away at BMO Field in Toronto. Sunday, June 18th at 7 o'clock against their arch rivals, the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So that should be a great game as well. And that will be the Argos 18th Grey Cup banner going up that night. And this is the 150th year of the Toronto Argonauts, by the way. And they will be doing some celebrations for the long history in Toronto as well. And if you guys watch my podcast show in a couple weeks, I'm going to have the communications manager and play-by-play voice of the Toronto Argonauts on my show Tuesday, April 25th at 3 p.m. with Mike Hogan from TSN 1050 and with the Argonauts. And Mike's going to come on and talk about the Argos Grey Cup win from last year and what he sees from this 2023 team, and with Chad Kelly being the number 1 quarterback for the Argonauts, with McLeod Bethel Thompson moving on to New Orleans of the USFL as well, guys. All right, guys. Also, live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment talk show hosted by yours truly, Chris Pame, is on weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern. from 8 to 9 weeknights on WQEE 99.1 FM, the key, the home of Southern sports and talk, the heartbeat of Atlanta. Thank you to Ryan O'Neill for having my show on your station weeknights at 8 to 9 o'clock every night as well. You guys can check out their website at wqeefm.radio12345.com as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk is always live streamed on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. Thank you to everyone for watching this live stream today as well. You guys can also check out my official website at beacons.ai/Chris D. Pame. All my digital content and all my social media sites and previous podcast episodes are on this website. Again, beacons.ai/Chris D. Pame. Finally, guys, Live with CDP Sports Talk, again, is sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Again, check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles as well, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. And again, it is truck month at Barry Cullen Chevrolet. The 2023 Silverado pickup truck 1500, 3.49% financing up to 72 months. Anyone that's an eligible Costco member can receive up to $750 bonus on select trucks. You would have to give them a call at Barry Cullen Chevrolet as well. And I want to say thank you to the dealership for sponsoring Live with CDP Sports Talk as well. And I'm quite happy with my 2023 Chevy Trailblazer RS model as well, sold to me by Nathan Laud at Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Finally, guys, you can follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. I post a lot of content there as well, so please check me out on TikTok at Live with CDP. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk. If you're into webinars or podcasting such as I am, I would highly recommend StreamYard. Live with CDP Sports Talk, again, is produced by CDP Media Productions here in Ontario, 2023. And finally, Live with CDP Sports Talk podcast, the audio version is available on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Stitcher, Tuned In, and weeknights at 8 o'clock again on WQEE 99.1 FM, the key in Atlanta as well. You guys can always email Live with CDP Sports Talk at cpame19@gmail.com, or you can text the show at 519-820-7188. And that's about it, guys. Again, I want to say thank you to Sarah Said, an on-air host and associated producer with Homestead Sports Media in Toronto. And Sarah covers both the CFL and the NFL. Appreciate her coming on today. And if you can give me about 15, 20 minutes, I'll have this audio version downloaded as well. So that's about it. I hope everyone has a great afternoon, great evening, and I hope you guys can tune into season 5, episode 43 this Thursday night, April 13th at 8 o'clock with Barbara Campos, CBS news reporter in Austin, Texas. And we'll talk about her career in broadcasting and media and as a reporter. So again, have a great afternoon, everybody, and enjoy the Blue Jays home opener tonight against the Detroit Tigers at the newly renovated Rogers Center. 7:07 first pitch. I believe the gates for fans going to the game open at 5, and Sportsnet coverage, I believe, will start at 4 or 4:30 today as well. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see the new look Rogers Center tonight. And the Blue Jays are expected to have a very good team this year. So, all right, everybody. Thank you to Sarah Said, and thank you to everyone for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports Talk, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Have a great afternoon, great evening, everyone, and we'll see you Thursday night at 8 o'clock with my guest, Barbara Campos from CBS Austin in Texas.
Live with CDP, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast, live on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and Anchor FM. Now here's your host, Chris Palme.
Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment.
Live with CDP, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast, live on YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and Anchor FM. Now here's your host, Chris Palme.